Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today we're checking out Rosemi Lovelock and Uki Violeta with We Be Union, a NIJI encounter song. So let's jump right into things in 3, 2, 1, play. Okay. Alright. Going for like a chill dance song. Okay. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Okay. Interesting. All right, so let's go over that. The instrumentation is very sporadic, so it's hard for me to latch on to stuff. It's there's a lot going on in this mix. I will say it's interesting how dynamic the mixing for the vocals is. There are times, especially at the first line, I think Uki got or Yuki, it was very very loud in the mix comparatively to the rest of the instrumentation, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it did stand out quite a lot. But there are times when the vocals kind of like come down and like match the instrumentation, but it doesn't necessarily feel like they're supporting vocals. Let me bring it down back a bit. So interesting. All right. Yeah, that I think it's not necessarily like off, but it is quite standout. Like how different the vocals get mixed in with comparatively to the instrumentation here. I know we're not, we're only halfway through the song, so not gonna spend too much time pausing here, but did want to comment on that. It's very sporadic in the mix, and it does have me kind of grasping to find something to latch onto, because the mix is so sporadic. I'm like trying to find like, okay, where's the hook? Where are we really like pushing the melody towards? Right now it's still pretty sporadic, I feel, but we do have the framework of like the chorus and everything now. Okay, I like that. Okay, I like that. That's interesting. That was very playful. I enjoy how playful the voices were there. Uh, Yuki has like a very striking clarity to his voice that contrasts very drastically with how nasal Rosemi's is. Rosemi kind of has that she has like a nasal quality to the point where it almost sounds like childish in a way. Sort of that cutesy like magical girl vibe with like where it's so nasal to the point it sounds like juvenile in a sense. Whereas Yuki is like much lower and he has like that very striking clarity in his voice that sounds very mature in contrast, which makes them very fun to have as like a pair to juxtapose in this like song overall. I will say I do think their voices are, they do juxtapose each other. they're not matching necessarily in the song super well, but I do think the comparison between their voices makes for a very fun dynamic. So while I do think the like comparison between their voices is very fun here, I think the song from like a purely auditory standpoint would benefit from having some intermediary vocals to kind of bridge the gap between the two extremes we're getting here.
The same road. No matter who you are, yeah, we are made of stardust, baby. Tonight, alright, we gonna rise and glow. Let them know, let them know. We don't hide. Listen to me.
Nice.
There's no divide. You'll be alright. This is a new beginning.
Hmm.
You know that you're not on your own. Take my hand, that's the race. I'm on like a million hearts beating sick of one. Together we're big union. So don't you feel alone? No, just
A very happy song.
where you belong. With big union.
Does that say chorus? Chorus there? Alright, very straightforward. Okay. Nice run.
Shining bright, different yet unified.
J. Jean.
Shining bright, different yet unified.
That's pretty good. I'm curious if J. Jean is a native English speaker or not. Sorry, I don't mean that as an insult. I hope that didn't come across as a negative statement. But I do think that a lot of the lyrical structure here is it doesn't come across as non-native, but it does come across as very sporadic and a bit disjointed. And I think that plays to the strengths of the instrumentation, but not necessarily to the strengths of the vocals. And I don't want to make this come across as too negative because I think this was a very fun song and a very like cool way to show off two very different vocalists. But I think seeing Jay Jean having both participation in the lyrics and the music, I do think leads me to perceive the composition as playing to the strengths of the instrumentation rather than the vocalists themselves. And another reason I say this is because certain parts of this overall felt very like rushed on the vocal side of things where the instrumentation felt very comfortable. And really this song I think right here really highlights that.
Let them know, let them know. We don't hide. Listen to me. There's no divide. You'll be alright.
Like I really don't think there's any reason why like this call and response here was great. I really love this up until this point right here. I'm like, okay, this is like a lot of strain on Rosemi to fit this like this lyrical part here into a short segment as we're leading into our next transition, right? And instrumentally we can hear the transition is coming. So like why are we trying to fit this large lyrical segment right before the transition? You know what I mean? It's not necessarily like a bad thing, but I do think it's something to be aware of, especially when your vocalists aren't getting input into the lyrics. I don't know if that's the case here, but when that is the case, if you're ever involved in like a music production, you want to make sure that you're not straining your vocalists to a point where it's detracting from their showcase of their abilities, right? And I'm not saying that this was detracting from the vocalist's ability, but I do think that we could have had a much better spotlight on both our vocalists here if we had a lyrical platform and an instrumental platform that meshed a bit well to showcase them, a bit better to showcase them. I think that what we have right now is a very fun, sporadic song that the vocalists are frantically trying to match. it does not seem it doesn't sound like the vocalists are comfortable in the mix. It sounds like they are trying to chase an instrumentation that is running away from them a little bit. Um, that said, as a song overall, I didn't dislike it. I do think that it was a very fun, enjoyable song overall. That and you can definitely tell that both our vocalists here are very skilled, especially Yuki. I think he had some great moments where he got to show off the versatility of his voice as both a bass support as well as a very clear melodic leader. I think Rosemi had some really awesome like runs that she got to show off, as well as just like the tonality of her voice. I think she has a very strong higher range. But the song overall did not feel like it played to their strengths. I think that maybe a little more communication as we're like creating the song with the vocalists and what they can do might have helped. I'm not saying that I had any insight into what making the song look like, but just from like a listener's perspective, that's what I feel. And you can let me know if you feel differently, because that might not necessarily be what a lot of you guys are hearing, but I'm curious to know if you have the same perspective on that. But overall, the song was really fun. I really enjoyed this. But I do think, especially compared to some of the other Niji Encounter songs, that it felt like the rest of the arrangement was kind of running away from the vocalists a little bit. And I think these are two very strong vocalists that could have showed off their skills a little more under different circumstances. Um, that's just my opinion on this, my 2 cents. Let me know if you feel differently, because I'm very curious, and I could be wrong about that on multiple listens. I might feel differently as well. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments, and also feel free to check out. Sorry, feel free to recommend more things for you to check out in the comments below as well. Aside from that, I will see you all next time. Thank you very much for recommending I check this out. And yeah, feel free to recommend more things in the comments. Thanks so much.